My name is Evelyn Carter, and I thought I had a perfect marriage until $530,000 vanished overnight. My husband, gone. Our savings, stolen. And the worst part? He took it all to fund his new life with another woman. He thought I'd break. He thought I'd stay silent. He was dead wrong. Because while he was celebrating his betrayal, I was setting the perfect trap. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. The numbers didn't change. $530,000, gone. Years of careful saving, planning, sacrificing for the future, wiped out in an instant. I felt my breath catch in my throat. This had to be a mistake, a bank error, some kind of glitch. But deep down, something darker stirred, a feeling I had ignored for too long. Mark. I stormed downstairs, my hands cold with dread. My husband of 30 years sat at the kitchen counter, phone in hand, sipping his whiskey as if nothing had changed. I swallowed hard, my voice sharp as I spoke. Mark, where is our money? He didn't even flinch, just set his glass down slowly, looked up at me, and smirked. Excuse me? My stomach twisted. His tone wasn't surprised, it was annoyed, as if I were the one causing the problem. Our savings, I forced out, my voice shaking now. It's gone. Every dollar we've worked for, everything we built, vanished. Where is it? Mark exhaled sharply, running a hand through his neatly styled hair like I was some hysterical wife blowing things out of proportion. You checked our accounts without asking me? He scoffed. Jesus, Evelyn, do you even hear yourself? You are so paranoid. This is exactly what's wrong with us. I took a step closer, my pulse hammering. What's wrong with us? Mark, $500,000 is missing. That's not paranoia, that's a crime. He laughed, actually laughed. A cruel, hollow sound that made my skin crawl. That money, he said, standing up now, towering over me, was mine. My earnings, my sacrifices. You haven't worked in 20 years, Evelyn. What right do you have to question me? I stumbled back, his words slicing deeper than I expected, not because they were true, but because he knew exactly how to hurt me. He knew the choices we made, together. I had given up my legal career to raise our children while he built his empire, never once thinking I'd have to defend that choice. Unbelievable, I whispered. You're really doing this. You're really trying to justify. If you don't trust me, he interrupted, his voice turning cold. Maybe we shouldn't be married anymore. The world seemed to tilt. I blinked, stunned. What? Mark exhaled, shaking his head. I need space. I barely had time to process before he turned and stormed upstairs. I heard the closet doors slamming open, drawers yanked out, the wheels of his suitcase rolling over hardwood floors. Minutes later, he came back down, his bags packed. He grabbed his car keys, didn't even look at me. I'll be back when you've calmed down and are ready to. Apologize. Apologize. The word echoed in my mind as the front door slammed shut behind him. I stood frozen in the kitchen, the silence pressing in on me. The man I had loved, trusted, built a life with, had just walked out the door, leaving me with nothing but a broken marriage and an empty bank account. And the worst part? I still didn't know where the money had gone. I gripped the edge of my chair, my fingers digging into the wood as I tried to steady my breathing. The house felt different now, colder, emptier, as if something vital had been ripped away. But this wasn't just about the money. This was something far worse. This was betrayal. I refused to sit in the dark, drowning in confusion. I needed answers. With shaking hands, I opened my laptop and logged back into our online banking, scanning through every transaction, searching for anything that might explain where our savings had gone. And then I saw it, a wire transfer, 2 weeks ago, a massive amount of money sent to a name I didn't recognize, Sophia Brooks. My heart slammed against my ribs as I copied the name and pasted it into a search bar. Nothing, no LinkedIn, no company records, no news articles. It was as if she didn't exist. But I knew where to look next. I opened Instagram. Mark barely used social media, but he had an account, a carefully curated page meant for professional connections. My fingers flew over the screen as I scrolled through his followers. And then I found her. Sophia Brooks, a private account, profile picture of a young blonde woman posing on a beach. I clicked on her tagged photos, my breath hitching. The first picture hit me like a freight train. Mark, standing on a beach, shirt unbuttoned, sunglasses on, a drink in his hand, his arm wrapped around her waist. The caption beneath it was like a knife twisting in my chest. Nothing like a luxury getaway with my love. I couldn't breathe. But the next picture was worse. Sophia, lounging on the deck of a yacht, holding up a bank statement. I had to squint to see it. And then my stomach dropped. It was my bank statement. Scrawled across it in thick, bold letters were the words, "Thanks for the case, sweetheart. Hope you don't miss it too much." I shot up from my chair, my entire body shaking. I barely made it to the bathroom before I collapsed against the toilet, dry heaving until there was nothing left but a burning rage in my chest. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was theft, humiliation. Mark hadn't just walked away from our marriage. He had robbed me blind and let his mistress mock me in public. I should have cried. I should have broken down. But when I looked up at the mirror, I didn't see a woman who was abandoned. I saw a woman on the verge of war. And Mark Carter, the man who thought he could steal everything from me and walk away without consequences. He was about to learn that he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, still, shaking, but it wasn't from nausea anymore. It was from something deeper, something hotter, rage. Mark thought I would crumble. He thought I would sit in this house, humiliated, powerless, while he and his mistress celebrated with my money. He was wrong. I wasn't going to beg for explanations or cry over what had already been taken from me. I was going to take something back. I marched back to the kitchen, grabbed my phone, and dialed the only person I trusted to tell me the brutal, honest truth, Lisa. She picked up on the second ring. "Evelyn, are you okay?" I took a shaky breath. "No, but I will be." Lisa had been my best friend since college, the kind of woman who never took anyone's bullshit. When she went through her own messy divorce years ago, she had come out swinging, refusing to let her ex walk away unscathed. I told her everything. The missing money, the wire transfer, the pictures, the public humiliation. By the time I finished, my voice was steady again, but my hands curled into fists. Lisa didn't hesitate. "We're going to war." Her words sent a chill down my spine, not from fear, but from something else. Resolve. "I need a lawyer," I said. "I know the best one in Chicago," Lisa replied. "Victoria Hayes. High net worth divorces, ruthless as hell. She eats men like Mark for breakfast." That was exactly what I needed. Within an hour, I was sitting in Victoria's sleek downtown office, my hands wrapped around a cup of coffee I barely remembered accepting. She was polished, composed, and had the kind of presence that made people nervous. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, her eyes sharp, her fingers steepled together as I laid out the details. The missing savings, the mistress, the public taunts. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, exhaling through her nose like a predator who had just spotted an easy kill. "This is financial fraud, Evelyn, and it's going to cost him more than he ever imagined." The words sent a thrill down my spine. "Can we get the money back?" "Some of it," she said. "But more importantly, we're going to make him pay." Her plan was brilliant, ruthless, precise. First, we filed an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets. Mark wouldn't be able to touch a single dollar without court approval. Second, we hired a forensic accountant. Every cent he had hidden, every shady financial move he had made, it would all be traced and exposed. And third, we set a trap. "Mark doesn't know you found out yet," Victoria said, tapping her nails against the desk. "So let's use that to our advantage. Let him think he's still in control." I nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. "You want me to act normal?" "Exactly," she said. "He'll come back, thinking you're weak, thinking he still holds all the power." She smiled then, sharp and knowing. "But by the time he realizes the truth, it'll be too late." For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something dangerous bubbling up inside. Me, hope. 2 days later, Mark finally called. "Hey, Ev," he said, his voice smooth, practiced. "I think we should talk." I swallowed back the disgust rising in my throat. "Of course, Mark," I said softly. "Come home. Let's talk." I could almost hear his smirk through the phone. He thought he had won, but he had no idea what was waiting for him on the other side of that door. I heard the key turn in the lock before I saw him. The sound sent a chill down my spine, not from fear, but from anticipation. Mark Carter was walking into his own destruction, and he didn't even know it yet. The door swung open, and there he was, standing in the entryway like he owned the place. He looked relaxed, like a man who had already won. A half smirk played on his lips as he pulled his suitcase inside, scanning the room. "Hey, Ev," he said smoothly, as if we were just two old lovers having a minor disagreement. "I think we got off on the wrong foot." I sat at the dining table, my hands folded neatly in my lap. Across from me sat Victoria Hayes, my attorney. Her presence was sharp and deliberate. Mark's smirk faltered for the first time. "What's this?" I leaned back, tilting my head. "A conversation." He laughed dryly, shaking his head. Jesus, Evelyn, you really went and got a lawyer? That's a little dramatic, don't you think? Victoria slid a thick folder across the table. Consider yourself served, Mr. Carter. Mark's expression darkened as he opened it, his eyes scanning the pages. Divorce papers. A full financial audit. A motion to freeze all marital assets. His jaw tightened. You're making a mistake, Ev. I raised an eyebrow. Am I? He scoffed, tossing the papers onto the table. You think some frozen assets scare me? I have money you don't even know about. Victoria didn't even blink. Actually, we do. Mark stilled. She flipped open another file, sliding a series of bank statements, wire transfers, and corporate records toward him. Let me guess, she said coolly. You thought moving money through a Delaware shell company would make it disappear? I watched as his face drained of color. He wasn't smirking anymore. He started, but Victoria cut him off. We also have evidence of your financial misconduct, misuse of marital funds, and potential tax fraud. She tapped a finger against the documents. Oh, and Sophia Brooks? She's been very cooperative. Turns out she's not too eager to go down for financial crimes committed in her name. Mark's hands curled into fists. That manipulative little. Careful, I warned. Wouldn't want to say anything that might come back to bite you. His nostrils flared, but he swallowed whatever insult was sitting on the tip of his tongue. He was calculating now, searching for an escape route. You think you've won, he said finally, his voice low and dangerous. But you have no idea what I'm capable of. I met his gaze, steady and unwavering. No, Mark, I said. You had no idea what I was capable of. The room fell, silent. For the first time in our entire marriage, Mark looked at me like he was truly seeing me. Not as his quiet, obedient wife, not as someone he could manipulate, but as his reckoning. He stood abruptly, shoving his chair back. This isn't over, he spat. Victoria smiled. Oh, but it is. He stormed upstairs, yanking open drawers and grabbing whatever clothes he could shove into his suitcase. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just sat there and listened to the sound of a man losing everything. 15 minutes later, he was at the door again, suitcase in hand. He turned back, one last attempt at regaining control. You'll regret this, he said. I exhaled slowly, letting the moment stretch. Then, with a calmness that rattled even me, I said, No, Mark, I'll finally sleep at night. And with that, he was gone. The silence he left behind wasn't empty, it was freedom. 1 year later, I stood on the balcony of my new lakefront condo, sipping coffee as the sun rose over the water. My name was officially on my law degree. After decades away from the workforce, I had gone back, finished what I started, and was now working at Victoria's firm. Mark? Last I heard, he was drowning in legal fees, his career in shambles, his shiny new relationship with Sophia long over. He had spent years thinking I was weak. Turns out, I was just waiting for the right moment to show him exactly how wrong he was. This story isn't just about betrayal or revenge. It's about power. The power we often don't realize we have until we're pushed to the edge. Evelyn's journey is one that so many can relate to. The devastation of being blindsided by someone you trusted, the anger of being taken for granted, and the deep, undeniable satisfaction of taking back control. Too often, people assume kindness is weakness, that if someone has sacrificed for their family, put their dreams on hold, or chosen loyalty over ambition, they are somehow lesser. But Evelyn's story proves one simple truth. Underestimating the wrong person can be the biggest mistake of your life. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Did Evelyn handle this the right way? If you loved her revenge, comment 2 below. If you think she should have done things differently, comment 7. And if you want more powerful stories like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means the world. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.